Do you ever get the feeling that there's better for you out there, but you can't quite figure out how to get there? It seems a little too far out of reach. Well, today I want to share with you a story where I will show you that better is not only available to you, but not knowing how to get there may actually be beneficial. So let's go. Deep down, I think I've had this feeling that I always know that things are gonna get better somehow. And of course, I've had times where it seems like everything's terrible and nothing's gonna get better. But overall, I think it's also proven to be right because things have gotten better, right? And if you had asked 10-year-old me where I'd be in my 20s or 30s, she would have never guessed that this is where we'd be. Because life was just really different. And when I was 10, it wasn't terrible or anything, but the people that I was surrounded with were not exactly open-minded. And I cannot pinpoint exactly to what is it that got me to believe that things could get better. But if I had to guess, I would say that it's probably the fact that at one point, things got so bad that I had to get creative to get out of that situation. It's kind of like that phrase that says, change happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, right? So at one point, something's gonna give, you have to do something. Creativity kicks in, and then voila, you come up with a way to make things different. And I think that change in that way is one of those things that you have to go looking for it. It's not gonna just show up. You have to go and try to find it. But once you can find it, it will appear. I remember my breaking point. I was 15, I lived in Chile, and I realized that I had to get out of there. The situation was not sustainable. I was so unhappy. I was depressed. I felt super lonely. There was so much going on, and I knew I had to get out. So one day I walked in my apartment complex, and they put these little magazines that was mostly ads, but I opened it. And on the bottom right corner, there was an ad for a foreign exchange student program. And it clicked. I was like, that's how I get out of here. And if I had used my logic to think this through, I would have given up right away because there was no way it was gonna work. I had no money to do this. You're supposed to do the whole process with your family, and I didn't have that. And it's such a long thing. Like, you have to apply, and then they have to select you, and they teach you things, and there's meetings, and da 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 da. But luckily, I didn't think about any of it. I was just like, I'm gonna do it. So I went to the place, I asked for the information, they told me what I needed to do, and I got to work. I remember I needed, I don't know, like $50 or something in that Chilean money, but I needed like $50 to get the process going, to turn in the application, but I didn't have the money. But I did know that my dad, he would drink and he would hide money around the house for some reason. So I would take a little money here, a little money there, and after a while, I had the $50. So I grabbed the money, went, turned in the paperwork, and then got the process going. And I don't know how they decided not to see the fact that there was no family in the in the whole process, because parents are supposed to come and be a part of it. And it was just me. I think my sister went with me to one meeting, and that was it. But long story short, it all worked out. So I showed up at my apartment one day and with the paperwork, and I was like, hey Dad, I'm leaving. I need you to sign this, and I need some money. And luckily they let me go for way less money than it was. So probably gave me a scholarship or something. They never said anything, but signed the papers, paid some of the money, and I left. And that one decision, that one thing that by any logic was absolutely impossible, it happened. And that's the one decision that changed my life. Another thing that's worth mentioning is that I ended up getting the best family. They were amazing. They took care of me. I lived with them for almost an entire year. And they treated me as their kid. So I am so thankful, and I still keep in touch with them. And this was 20 years ago, and I still see them. So that was fantastic. That year, I learned English, I lived a normal life, I went to school, everything is great. I did miss my friends from back home, and I did want to go back to see them. But the moment I got back there, I was like, uh-oh, I gotta get out of here. So I knew that I only had 6 months left of high school there. So as soon as I finished that, I had to leave. Because here's the thing, that was not my place. I was not meant to be there. And the main point that I'm trying to make with all this is that sometimes we give up before we even start. And here's the thing, we say we want better, but that means that we actually have to go and get better. We have to find that better. And once we find it, we have to do something about it right away. Because sure, there's a chance that it will not work, right? But there's also a chance that it will. And that one decision can change everything for you. I have been in the States longer than I lived in Chile. This is where my life is. My entire life is here. And it all happened because of one irrational decision that I made when I was 15 years old. And if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't even be here. I may have ended up staying there, and who knows what would have happened. I don't, but I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have been even close as good as it is right now. So I would like to invite you to think about this, because even though sometimes things seem so darn hard and it seems like there's no way out, we have to come up with something. And we have to get creative and come up with something that may seem delusional. Because trying something that makes no sense is way better than doing nothing and wishing and hoping for change. Because here's the thing, it's not gonna happen. Nothing is going to change unless we do something. Action and determination are key components on making things that seem impossible actually happen. And this whole thing reminds me of the story of Sarah Blakely. She is the founder of Spanx, and I'm gonna read to you a quote from her, and it says, "I didn't know how the fashion industry worked, and I'm glad I didn't. Not knowing the rules allowed me to create my own rules and think outside the box. Sometimes ignorance can be a powerful asset because it frees you from the constraint of conventional wisdom and enables you to approach things with a fresh perspective." And I think that's what may have happened to me when I was 15, because I didn't know the rules. I didn't even think about the rules, but somehow I knew that it would work out at some point. And here's the thing, if it worked out for me, it can also work out for you. And I want to ask you, what is something that you think could never happen, but after hearing this story, you may want to rethink? Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. And I will see you next time.